Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Voice from the Underground, the podcast. This is Jason Dutch, and we are the podcast where politics and pop culture collide. It is I, and I am back with the Dark Knight, the Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, the Cigar Puffer, and puffer of probably many, many things, I would imagine. Is that not true?
I believe you've met my fitness consigliere.
Big Hussein. What's happening, Big Hussein?
What's going on, y'all? How y'all feeling out there?
Y'all feeling all right. Also with me, our producer extraordinaire. You know him from the film Friday as the druggie, Mickey Antifa. What's happening? You steal any bikes lately?
How dare you call me Izel, who is the character you can't remember the name of because you just
I
dip
looked it
your
up.
toe in
You
our
know-
culture and you don't fully
Here's the-
participate.
Well, I know.
Appropriator!
The
Can't
funny
even
thing
remember
is,
crackhead Izel.
20 minutes ago or so, I was looking for I couldn't even find him on IMDb. But, you know,
AJ
maybe
Johnson?
IMDb is part of the system that needs to be broke down. Busted it up.
Can I make a small confession at the start of the show?
Sure.
I'm gonna be a little bit more mellow today, only because got some edibles for my girl's birthday, and we tried one yesterday.
And you still on it?
I think I'm still a little high, and I'm not used to this. So I'm gonna be very chillaxed back here.
Let's go.
Well, that's good. Hopefully you don't cause any problems.
You wanna fight? You gotta fight.
Yeah, let's say you go start some Antifa fires or do what you do. But yeah, so we're here, another live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the program. First and foremost, just want to say thanks to everyone for joining, and a little shout out to our friends over at Big Heads Media. I will just real quick want to let you guys know that they are running their. I'm not going to give the full ad because we're not technically part of it because we're not a sports show, but just as a little bit of a help to them. Check out all the other shows over at bigheadsmedia.com. And they are doing my bookie promotion over there right now. So if you guys do want to bet on the NFL games, you get 20% added to your wallet there if you use the promo code Big Heads at checkout at my bookie. So definitely do that if you're a gambling man. But I'm not a gambling man other than poker. So yeah, you can go ahead and do that. But this is VFU, and you can check out our website, www.vfupodcast.yolasite.com. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/VFU podcast. There's multiple levels that you can sign up for there if you want to help support independent media, $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, one-time donation, et cetera, and help keep this crap show going, this dumpster fire, as they say.
Not gonna light themselves on fire.
You can light yourself. Well, we'll send you a book of matches. Oh, and real quick, one other thing that I want to show you guys too, while I have my screen still shared here. We do have some new gear. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Callie, who has always been such a great participant of this show. And as a thank you to her, one of the things that I did is I'm sending her a little bit of glam. And hopefully I should be able to click on this and show you guys what we have going on here now. I uploaded our new little watermark thing. I thought it would make a nice little shirt. So you can order this gear over at Voice from the Underground on TeePublic. It's just teepublic.com/t-shirt. I'm sorry, /VFU podcast. I'll put the link in the show notes if anybody wants to look at that. There's about 8 or 9 different things you can get this as. You can get it as a hoodie. You can get it as a tank top, etc. And Big Hussein and Mickey Antifa, you guys will both have one on the way to you as well. Not to mention, they also do face masks as well. So as you can see here, there's hoodies. Hoodies are $35. Everything's on sale at the moment. You can get yourself a coffee mug if you are a coffee guy. Face masks as well. Like I said, in fact, I'm going to send you guys all a face mask, as well as you can rock that VFU gear if you like that VFU that you hear.
Oh Lord.
Oh,
Oh man.
You sound
You're
like
gonna love my nuts.
Might as well say the Informer.
The Informer. All right, so let's introduce our guest for today. So, Mike, if you want to let him into the stream there. We do have a guest with us today. So, welcome down to the underground. Blah, blah, blah. I felt like Joe Biden. I sound like Joe Biden.
You got into my edibles.
Exactly. But well,
you're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
But welcome to the show, Bobby Lopez, DJ Bobby Lopez.
Well, thank you very much. I guess I'm talking to the people in the underground, and I'm in an attic, so it all kind of works out.
There you go.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thanks for joining the show, Bobby. Now we will get you. Let's introduce you a little bit quick here. You are a member of the GK Podcast Network. That's Jeff Dornick's stuff. Jeff is a friend of the program.
Hi, Jeff.
Right.
Hello, Jeff.
Dornick.
How are you?
He's in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Yes, and we'll get a little bit to know Bobby here real quick. First, we'll play our 4-down territory with Bobby. But first, before we do that, just tell us, the quick background on you, your elevator pitch. If someone were to say, "Hello, Bobby," what you do?
Well, right now I am in the wilderness. I, over the course of my life, I had a career in cable broadcasting in the 90s, and then I taught college students for 20 years. I got my PhD way back when. So I had 20 years of teaching, but I basically was driven out of 2 academic jobs, one of which I was driven out by the left when I was at California State University at Northridge. There were a whole bunch of all these different liberal groups that all ganged up on me, and I had to leave that job. I came to Texas and then got fired by Southern Baptist Republicans. So I've kind of made it my mission to
You piss everybody off.
be a gadfly to both sides, all sides of the political spectrum, and to fight for freedom of speech and honesty and truth in our discussions on both sides. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm just writing and trying in whatever little ways I can, but that's where I'm at.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate that. And so, what are your specific political affiliations? I mean, would you consider yourself a man of a party, or what?
I've been a Democrat and I've been a Republican. I guess now I am an independent. I mean, I am conservative. So I came on the show knowing that I'm probably going to be outnumbered, but I'm ready for it. It's okay. And I think probably my faith is more important than a political viewpoint. But I lean more on the conservative side, but I'm not a man of a party per se.
Okay. Well, then you're probably no, does any of us here consider themselves to be a Democrat or a Republican? How's your Democrat?
No way.
No?
No way. They shit the bed too much.
You're way too left of them.
Yeah. Me believing in the death penalty and fiscal conservatism and stuff.
Exactly. So before we get into politics, let's go into our 4-down territory. So
Okay.
4-down territory. Hut. 22. Sit.
He's doing his own thing again. There he is.
Don't do that.
Don't let me fly off by the handle here.
Don't let him riff. Like you don't let Trump riff. Don't let this
You're
guy
gonna love
riff.
my nuts.
He heard all the music behind that and everything. Like he was loving. He's like dun dun dun, and then he's doing the sound effects.
Yeah.
Foley artist Jason Dutch is here.
I'm gonna execute a button hook.
So the first question, now that the black people have decided I can talk. Okay. So Bobby, you can be any comic book superhero. DC, Marvel, doesn't matter. Who would you be? And if you could be that person in real life, have their powers, everything that you want from that life, who would you be and why? And I will tell you, listener, just real quick here, Bobby is having some internet issues. So if he does happen to drop off, we'll just get him back in. So, but they don't have internet in them conservative rural areas. But Bobby, what superhero would you be and why? I don't know if he can hear us.
I'm sorry, my internet's like freezing. It's I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
That's-
Did you hear the
Yeah.
question, or you need me to go into or ask it again?
I'll type up the question.
Yeah, I think we
Oh,
just lost him
there he
there.
goes.
So this is what, well, for the audio version, the people won't even know this happened because. All right, so we've lost Bobby. We've lost Bobby for a quick second here. So while we wait for him to get back on, we'll go through 4 Down territory with him when he comes back into the show. So let me just ask you guys. Actually, that's an interesting question. Why don't we ask you two that same question, Mikey, Antifa? Who would you be and why?
It's kind of a cheating answer, you know. I don't want to say Dr. Manhattan, but
Oh,
he's-
you asshole.
now that I know that he
That's not true.
exists, it's like, well, then yeah, that one. Like that's clearly the one. That's the guy you want
Right.
to be.
Well, he's all except they did kill him, so apparently he's not
He
invulnerable.
allowed himself to die.
Yeah, he could have fought it.
Yeah. he
Okay,
didn't-
so but you just want to be omnipotent and all powerful. Big Hussein, what about you? This is a large cigar. That is a big one. They
Pause.
she said.
let me see. Who would I want to be? Now, my son. You know what? I'm gonna go this way. On my fridge, right now, is a magnet that has been mine
The Incredible Hulk.
since I was 5 years old. So it's been in my life for 43 years. I have an Incredible Hulk magnet on my fridge right now in this home that I got when I was 5 from my grandmother. So, of course, I'd want to be the Hulk. He has a sensitive side like me, but if you push him, he will destroy everything in his path. Kind of like me. You know? And as James Baldwin would say, to be black and even semi-conscious and aware in America is to be in a constant state of rage that is being controlled. So, the Hulk I identify with.
How about you, Dutch? Who would you be if you could be?
Who
a
would you
super-
be?
Okay, so we have Dr. Manhattan and we have the Hulk. Okay.
He's gonna say Homelander. I'm telling you right now.
Oh.
I'm way more sadistic than he is.
That motherfucker, dude.
Yeah. So no, I wouldn't pick Homelander. I mean, if I were going to pick Homelander, I'd just pick Superman because Superman has more powers than Homelander does. But actually, he has a weakness where Homelander doesn't have a kryptonite weakness. But his powers are also not given to him by medicine. Mine would be from the TV show Heroes. I would be Sylar.
I like Sylar.
Yeah,
Sylar?
remember Sylar? Gideon
Sylar.
Gray?
He would take his finger and
Well,
take, take your
the great-
hypothalamus out of some shit.
Right. The great power about. Did you watch Heroes?
No,
Okay. Well, then you wouldn't know.
Oh fuck, man!
I was
Yeah,
having
but
sex with
Heroes. So.
I would be watching
Okay.
Heroes and having sex. Thank you.
Ro-
Same time.
Did Roderick get to you last week? Because apparently only leftists watch TV shows. So you must have been hanging with him. But so Sylar, for those who didn't watch Heroes, Sylar. So Heroes is sort of like the whole concept of that show it was sort of like X-Men in a lot of ways, where people have their powers. They're sort of like mutated. They call them evolved humans. And the Sylar power was he could take the power from any other hero. Now, the way he did it was he had to kill that hero and
Was it the
or
frontal lobe?
villain. It was the rear lobe of their
Yeah,
brain.
it was
Like
the
he
medulla
ate-
oblongata.
yeah, he ate the. I'll show you your medulla oblongata.
Mama was
Water
right.
boy.
You wrong.
You
Don't
are
cry
the
out.
devil. I would not. You know what? The water boy. That would be a hell of a superpower to have too. But yeah, Sylar would be. I would prefer not to have to eat people's brains, but I definitely would want the ability to take people's powers. Now, Peter Petrelli had that power too in Heroes, but he can only take one power at a time. So I'd be somewhere in the middle of Peter Petrelli and Sylar. So it looks like we got Bobby Lopez back again. That's just such a great
Yeah.
DJ name. So
Bobby Lowe.
Bobby
DJ
Lowe.
So
Bobby
Bobby,
Lowe.
I'll ask you the question. I'll ask you the first of the 4 down territory questions again.
Okay.
We've actually been answering it ourselves here while you were gone. You
All
can
right.
be any super powered superhero or supervillain, doesn't matter, from any comic book genre, DC, Marvel, whatever you want. You'd have their powers and you can live a version of their life. Which superhero would you be?
Aquaman.
Oh, that's an
Really?
interesting. Okay.
Wow, wow.
And why
I
would you
like-
pick Aquaman?
Because he gets to talk to animals. I always thought that was really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could also
Okay.
you could also pick Manimal from the 1980s TV show.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
just talking about that show today. I was
I
talking
don't- I
about,
don't- I don't- I
somebody
don't
was
know
looking
any
at me
of
like
them.
I had 3 heads when I was talking about that show. Like, what? I'm like,
Yeah.
dude. It was
Yeah,
kind of creepy too, because when he turned into a bird, you could see the feathers coming out of his pores. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I had students, it was about 2 years ago. They had this running joke that they would, whenever they said the word Hulk in front of me, because I'm kind of a big guy, they would want me to turn into the Hulk.
Well,
So
you
it was
just missed
kinda
it because
like
Haas. That was
What?
Haas's pick. Haas's pick was he would be the Hulk.
The
I
Hulk?
know you missed that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we have two Hulks and one Hulk / Aquaman on the show. So
Yeah.
did you watch the movie? Did you like the movie?
Oh, it was awful. It was terrible.
Really?
With Jason Momoa. Yeah, it's just I'm not into this hyper CGI, like throw the script together, terrible script. It's just I'm not into it. Yeah, I like the old fashioned Wonder Heroes things from like my childhood in the 80s when you'd
The
rush home.
Super Friends.
The Super Friends. Yeah, the really cheap graphics, but like they actually had kind of cool scripts and stuff. I like that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I got
All
one.
right. So
I got one.
who's gonna go? Okay, Mikey's going next.
If you had to choose between these two gentlemen, who would you like to be your next door neighbor? Carl Sagan or Bob Ross?
Carl Sagan. I could talk about astronomy with him.
Yes.
It would be kind of cool. Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Scientists are interesting. Yeah.
One of the great
Astrophysics
minds of
nerd.
our century. Yep.
Yeah.
Ay, caramba.
One of the great minds of our century. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Big Hussein, do you have a question?
Yes, I
for him?
do. Yes, I do.
Mhm.
In your teaching experience,
Mm-hmm.
what is the closest you've come to strangling a student?
Oh gosh, 2004. I taught at Rutgers in New Jersey.
Okay.
And, this was way before people even used the term Karen. But I used to always joke about how all of my students were used to talking to the manager at the mall. That's what they'd seen their mothers grow up doing as they grew up. So in New Jersey, the students always would immediately threaten to go to the dean over anything.
Mhm.
They're like, we looked at you the wrong way. I'm going to report you. And then, so there was this one student. I'm not going to say her name, obviously, but oh my gosh, I was ready to scream. I think I did. She would do everything. So she would basically cheat and then intentionally make it so that I had to catch her, so that then she could bring me up on charges for how I confronted her about cheating. Because one of the things that students do when they cheat is they make it so that they can complain about the fact that you accuse them of cheating. Do you know what I mean? They consider that harassment. And then by the time it goes to the student activities office, no one's even investigating whether the student cheated. They're just investigating you for her, for making the student feel uncomfortable. And she did that to me like 3 or 4 times in one semester. I finally
Really?
Yeah. I remember.
Does
And
she work
then-
in the Trump administration now?
no, but I think she probably, I don't know where she's working. I think she probably would have been working. My guess, she's kind of like the kind of person I could see working in like a local, like a Chris Christie governor's administration or something like that. Yeah.
I was going to say the
she'll-
DMV.
Yeah, she could run the DMV, or even better yet, she could be like the customer service representative from one of those telephone companies where you call up and the customer service rep, you can't hear them because the line's always scratchy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like that kind of person. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So off to a good start here. If you could put anyone Now the person has to be American. I know you're Christian. You can't say Jesus Christ because he doesn't count as an American. Okay. At least not in a literal sense.
Saying Jesus wasn't American, Dutch? Is that what you're telling me right now?
The hell you
Jesus
trying to
is
say?
America. American Jesus.
He had a Ford
right,
pickup
so-
truck, I tell you what.
He was born in Jerusalem, Texas.
With
Well.
white skin and blue eyes.
That's right.
Um,
Fuck Revelations.
I never said anything about that. I never said this is all like. I never made any.
No.
No. We're not talking about Drew Bobby Lowe. We're not talking about Drew Bobby Lowe.
Yeah.
You good?
No worries. So you can put any American's face. It doesn't even have to be a politician.
Yeah.
On Mount Rushmore. Who is it? And don't say Jeff Dornick.
No, I'm not going to say Jeff Dornick. Donald Trump.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
Why not?
I gotta go.
You know.
This is the kind of thing that just tickles my balls.
And why? And
why not
why?
just start trouble? Why not just start trouble like right out of the gate? Yeah.
Oh my God.
He went
Yeah.
Well, we never said we wouldn't put dynamite sticks on it the next day. Why would you put Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore? And I'm sure, by the way, he will be very big fan of that move.
Why? Because I went to Mount Rushmore with my family. We drove across country, and I was actually not impressed by Mount Rushmore. We were driving up. I love that there's another mountain that's close by there that looks like a man's face. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
I
do know what
found
you're
that
talking
much more fascinating than Mount Rushmore. I mean, Mount Rushmore's cool, but you're seeing it from such a distance. So I just think it would just be a hilarious thing to do. It would be like for lulz.
about. Okay, so I do got to ask you this.
Okay.
How many man hours would it take to do that fucking hair?
Who? Donald Trump's hair?
Hair on the mount? Yeah, they'd have to carve that,
Yeah.
that bad
Yeah.
hair piece.
They'd have to find like yellow granite or something. But I think if you're going to put Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore, you just
Orange.
you got to go all the way. Yeah, spray painted orange and have like gold luster, you know, like the stuff you put on Christmas trees. What's that called? Tinsel. Yeah, like gigantic
And
tinsel
garland.
made out of like huge spikes of iron, spray painted gold. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a real quick comment from Callie. She's just laughing.
Well, who would you put on Mount Rushmore?
If the natives haven't been disrespected enough.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Real quick, we got a comment from Chaz. Those type of people get jobs in student affairs at the college that they want. That they
Yeah.
went to. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah!
I can go on for hours about the craziness on college campuses, and that's very true. There's like a whole crop of people who never graduate from college because they work at the college that they went to in some administrative office. So yeah.
Right. Okay, so who would I put on Mount Rushmore? You know, I wasn't even prepared to answer this question, but I would say Muhammad Ali. Yeah, that's who I would go with.
Okay. Why?
Because not only was he a tremendous political figure, but he's probably one of the best athletes ever to be in an American public sports figure. You know, so he his stance on the Vietnam War was great, and you know, he was a little bit on the brash side, but you know what, I just off the top of my head, he'd be the guy. I would Jordan would be a close second because I'm a huge Jordan fan, even though socially Jordan's sort of a prick. But
He does a lot of stuff behind
yeah.
the scenes, and he always did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. But
they just re-released. Did you see that? They just re-released Michael Jordan to the Max in IMAX now, 20th anniversary. I remember watching that at, I think, Six Flags at IMAX.
I did not watch that. Didn't watch that.
No. Okay. Well, let's get started with the show.
Oh, we're not
So
going. We
first-
don't get to put our Mount Rushmore up.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You would put Chadwick Boseman and who?
No way. No. You know what I'm
Obama
going-
and Chadwick Boseman.
No, not Obama. No. I'm going with the great Malcolm X.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
The great
Yeah.
Malcolm X.
Yeah, I like
on,
that.
on Mount Rushmore, definitely.
And his face would go really well on a mountain, like
That's
just
right.
his bone structure and everything like
That's
that.
right.
Yeah,
Brother Malcolm on Mount Rushmore, most
and
definitely.
you'd have to get the glasses. You'd really have to work in the glasses. You mean that would be
You
like
have to. You have
yeah,
to.
yeah.
I saw a dude
That
on
would be great.
I saw a dude on Facebook who was so proud of his Malcolm X tattoo, but it was really just Denzel Washington doing Malcolm X.
As Malcolm X,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I saw that.
I was like,
Well,
oh,
I never said
poor
I'd put-
guy.
I never said I'd put the real Muhammad Ali on there. It's gonna be Will Smith, as Muhammad Ali, right?
Get out.
Then you gotta put in background Jamie Foxx
Mhm.
as Bondini Brown behind him.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, I guess Mr. Antifa. Who would Antifa put on the on Mount Rushmore?
Sitting Bull.
That's a very appropriate one.
Yeah.
It was kind of his to begin with. So
Mhm.
Yes, it was until he was labeled a terrorist group. And
Yeah,
chased
isn't
out
it
of-
funny how America
and
does that?
chased out of his homelands.
Mhm.
One of my friends is a Lakota Sioux, and
Mhm.
he's given me some history lessons that I never got in history class. And wow,
Mhm.
on the run from the American government, and they would like most of the major reservations now were places that the elders would drop the elderly and the children off because they could move faster without them. So they would just leave the kids in a certain spot and leave the elderly in a certain, you know what I mean? So that they wouldn't have to run as hard and as fast as they had to from the American government.
you love the history you don't get in schools, right? Well, we'll talk more about that later with Bobby Lopez, but first we're going to talk a little bit about the debates. So, as just so you guys know, when I take a vape, see, you can't hear mine because I mute myself. That's Mikey when you hear the vape, so it's not me. Stop accusing me of that, listener.
No, that's
And we got a couple of listener comments we'll get into later in the show, but first and foremost, I'm going to play this debate recap. There are a couple. It's about 4 minutes, but it puts a really good picture on stuff, and I'll try to fast forward through a couple of dead air spots they have. So this is just a quick time capsule of last night's debate, or the debate from 2 nights ago.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen,
China ate your lunch, Joe.
You're
And by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
hey,
Come
Joe, let
on.
me-
I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree-
want to
hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class,
I-
not first in your
I-
class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that.
You know what? You're-
Absolutely not
Stop.
You're on
true.
tape
You're-
doing it.
You're going to
Not
have,
true.
gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but it
on
seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you?
So then the candidates discuss the Supreme Court here.
I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all.
The American people have a right, have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already.
And then Biden swiped at Trump over the president's early handling of
He
the
panicked
coronavirus.
or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault.
And then they talked about the economy as the next topic. Poor Chris Wallace.
This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
And then they talked about their kids for whatever reason.
We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why
Simply
is
not
it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that.
deserve $183,000?
None
You've
of
asked your
that is
question,
true.
let him answer. If,
None of that is true.
Oh,
It's
really? He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5?
And then, of course, the condemning of white supremacy.
but are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups
Sure.
and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead, sir.
say I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right
So
wing.
what are you
If
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
from
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia.
Well, I do know one thing. Chris Wallace now knows how kindergarten teachers feel. That's for sure. So, real quick, we will start with our esteemed guest, Bobby. What was your takeaway from the debates, and did you try to kill yourself during the debates?
I thought the debates were a train wreck. It was just a waste of everybody's time. It was a rare moment when it was really just. I think everybody was at their worst. All parties involved. I did actually feel a very deep sense of depression during and after it. I remember coming down and talking to my wife, and I told her I was just like, "This is." It's unhinged. I think that one of the things, because obviously the problem's big. The problem is that as a country, we are incapable of having discussions anymore that are productive or that are sincere. But on a nitpicky level, I think that it would make more sense to say, if it's going to be, just give them an open discussion period and actually observe the 2-minute rule at the very beginning, and then just sort of let them duke it out. I thought that a lot of Chris Wallace's questions were kind of compound questions where there would be a lot of subparts to it. And I think that kind of encouraged a lot of the tangents and a lot of the lack of focus. And then that contributed to the escalation. But I think that those were the worst debates I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like that. I don't know if you guys can draw up any from memory that rival that, but that was the worst, I thought.
Well, 2016 was pretty bad also. But
yeah.
What was your takeaway as far as, like, do you think that there was a winner in your eyes there?
No, I think it was a draw. I think Joe Biden, a lot of people were expecting him to melt down and say something really dumb, and he didn't. So I think maybe he walked away a winner because he went against the expectation, and he had the advantage of people had low expectations of him going into it, and he exceeded their expectations. I think so. I would say he would be the winner just based on that. But I think overall it was a draw. I think if you went in and you were a Trump supporter, you walked away thinking Trump won. The same thing if you were a Biden winner. And I think if you're an independent, you probably just were, exactly the same way you were at the beginning of the debate. I don't think anybody won it.
Okay, fair enough. We'll go to our esteemed producer. What were your thoughts on the debates there?
Well, just to piggyback on what Bobby said, the depression is good because the depression means you actually give a shit about what happens in this election. Because a lot of people are like, oh, this was so funny. How fun was this? It's like, no, we have a whole country that is going to be ran more or less by the victor of these debates in this election. So it's not funny if it's actually going to affect you. But most of the people that I saw laughing don't really do much for anyone else or for themselves. So I get why they have the time to laugh about these matters. The super predator comment had me cracking up as a contrast because it was like, yo, that's the page from the last debate. You guys are supposed to switch that out. He didn't write that was Hillary and Bill Clinton. You can't just throw that on to. Okay, should just hit F5 before you go into any debates, everybody. If you're going to go into a debate on TV, just make sure you hit F5 and refresh the page so that you don't have the old debate information up there. And then the death count. You're a Trump supporter and you run in Trump circles. What is everyone's reaction to the death count in the States versus the death count in all of these other countries? Some of them shithole countries, and that our death count is so high.
With the death count?
Yeah.
Well, I just don't have. I mean, it doesn't. I don't get hooked into the idea that the total number of people who died is the fault of the president. It's just because there's Article 4 of the Constitution. The states are responsible for a lot of that activity in terms of trying to look after public health and organize hospitals and make sure there's medical supplies and all the other stuff. I think that America is a place of extremes. So we have one extreme where people want to have everything closed down and masks and social distancing. And then the other extreme where people are like, no, leave everything open and don't wear a mask. And I'm just going to walk around. With the death count, I think it doesn't surprise me that America has a higher death count than other countries because of the way that we are culturally. You're going to have extremes. And I think because of the fact that it's inconsistent, there are people who have really strong opinions about it, which is always going to happen with almost any high stress issue in America. It's really hard to get everyone in the same community observing a routine that actually can address it and stop the spread of the virus and help people to not have to get hospitalized or to not die. My wife is from South Korea, so she was following all of it, and South Korea is different. South Korea, everybody immediately had the exact same program, and they had testing, and everybody took it, and they all kind of reached a consensus much earlier as to how to run things. So they didn't close down things at the rate that America did. Actually, they had a lot of businesses that were open when we were closed, but everybody was wearing masks. You didn't have people walking around without masks. So that's my reaction to it. I don't know what your reaction to is. I'm generally left with a really bad feeling when people politicize death like that, or when they try to weaponize a tragedy that I'm assuming that the virus came not because of the malfeasance of one political party or the other. It was a disaster that struck us, and so I just don't. I think it leaves a bad taste in my mouth when people turn that into a weapon to get votes for an election.
And I wasn't trying to weaponize at that point, but it seems like one side of the aisle seems to care about the fact that people are actually getting sick and hurt and hospitalized and dying, and then the other people are like, natural selection. I'm like, that's not what that means.
Herd mentality.
Yeah, I think some people just kind of are more willing to write people off as casualties for the economy, and that's kind of what I was like. Do you hear a lot of that? Like,
then best for them to die and decrease the surplus population.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear that. I voted for Trump in 2016. I'm probably going to vote for him this year. I'm not surrounded by people like that. I'm in a mixed political household. I have a very liberal wife, and a lot of my friends are liberal. So I'm not around people who are talking about how the death is something good or they're okay with it. I do come across a lot of people who are Trump supporters who don't like they consider it an intrusion and unconstitutional, the limitations on people gathering. That's kind of what I hear the most of. I wear a mask. And I can say that in Texas, I would say like 2.5 months ago, nobody was wearing masks. I would go into the supermarket. I was the only person with a mask on. And then, when the death rate spiked, that's changed. Now everyone has on masks. At my kids' school, they're pretty careful about it. So I do think it changed in about June or July, and I think there was a lot more seriousness because people realized that that death toll wasn't going to plateau, that it kept on going up. So,
Haas, go ahead and read this because this is your boy.
Oh yeah, the homie Kwasi. He says of the debates, it was a shit show, and the world laughed at us.
Yeah,
Yes,
And
sir.
I
Big
definitely
Q.
agree. I definitely agree. And it was shameful to watch. I mean, I don't know how many, because a lot of times when I talk about the way the world is looking at us throughout these last, what, 5 years,
hmm
you know, with the campaigning and the subsequent presidency and just all of the just administrative chaos that has gone on, you know. And when I talk about that, when I'm engaged in discussion with people of different political ideologies,
hmm
their response is, we don't care what the rest of the world thinks. But if you think geopolitically, these other nations, a lot of these other nations are our allies. Okay, so we want to have a level of respectability with them. And then for the nations that are not our allies, they look at this and they see weakness and they see opportunity because there's so much shit going on that you can't keep your eye on anything that they might be trying to do. You know, hacking, all of the disinformation that is getting pumped out of other nations. You know, we already know that Russia interfered in the last election, utilizing social media and things like that. But we know other countries did too. They weren't the only one. They may have been leading the pack, but who's to say they didn't all coordinate together? You know, because the enemy of our enemy is a friend, right?
hmm
So I think that that pull your dick out and bang it on the table and say we don't care what other people think mentality contributes to the degradation of our nation's allies and our relationships around the world with our allies and the sense with our enemies or those people that are not our allies of yeah, we don't like them, but they got their shit together, so we can't fuck with them. And right now it just looks like we don't have our shit together at all. And I think that is a great threat to this country,
hmm
from external and internal. Because like Bobby said, and like a lot of people say, you know, conversations like this with us and Bobby Lopez of differing political ideologies is rare to have conversations like this that don't just devolve into name calling and shit like that. You know what I mean?
hmm
So we're not having these conversations. There's no, like Bobby said, there's no sense of togetherness. Like he said, his wife over in South Korea, boom, consensus. This is what we're gonna do. We're all gonna wear masks. Da da
hmm
da da da. This is how it's gonna be because the health of our nation is more important than any little bullshit that we got going on between us.
Yeah,
You know,
and they kind
and
of in Asia, I think that they're a little bit more used to it. Maybe I don't know if that's a super fair comparison because they have had outbreaks there in the past, especially with H1N1 and things of that nature,
hmm
SARS that didn't really come here, so they're a little bit more probably taking it seriously. Where America, I think we've always figured that the big water, there's lots of water, that it protects us in a way,
who is
and we
that
have that.
though? With as much international travel that goes on through
Yeah,
in and out of our nation, why would we think that?
but let's be honest. When we first talked about coronavirus, the first time we mentioned it on the show, we were doing a review of not a review, but we were talking about that Harley Quinn movie, Birds of Prey, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about how it had a bad opening review at opening weekend, and a lot of that was due to the fact that it didn't open in China at all because of coronavirus. I don't think any of us sat there at that point in time when TJ was here and said, "Oh, we think it's coming here," because we have a sense of invincibility in a way here in America.
You know
But
something?
yeah,
I because at that point, we were in the infancy of our knowledge about coronavirus, and we were burgeoning on the presidential election cycle and things like that. So yes, I will admit that I was like, oh, here we go again. You know, this is just some, it'll go away as soon as the election is over. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and we had impeachment going on at the same time too. Remember? Yeah.
And then here's the thing. Here's the thing: is this though? As we've heard from his own voice, 45 knew about the danger. He knew what was gonna. He knew how dangerous it could be. He knew how fatal it was, and that information was held back purposely. And I would have come. I mean, I would say I was one of the first ones to say, "Hey, I was wrong. We need to really step up our level of seriousness about this disease." Da 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 da. If I had known sooner, I would have come around even sooner. But we didn't know. So for a time, there's this. Oh, here we go with the election cycle, fear-mongering disease.
Yeah, and there was a lot of joking. Remember, there was a lot of joking about it. Like, I'll pick my coronavirus with Lyme disease, and stuff like that. And like but I remember when it first came here. And Bobby, I'll give you a chance to respond to what Haas just said there. But the virus when it first came out, I think that it was just one of those things where we sort of feel like we're just immutable to all this stuff. But there was a lot of jokes going around that, not really jokes, but the right wing. I remember 3 or 4 people that said to me, once it was kind of obvious that coronavirus was coming here,
right?
That all right wingers who said that it was manufactured by Nancy Pelosi, and that George Soros had something to do with it, and the Hahn family is bankrolling.
Don't forget Bill Gates. Don't forget Bill Gates.
Yeah, Bill Gates, and like I don't, Bishop Gators, who wanted to come on to Baby and then chicken shit it out, said that it's bankrolled by the left, that sort of thing, and it's. What is your thoughts on that? We do have 2 comments we want to read, but we'll get to those in one sec here because they're so long they're filling up the whole screen when we put them up on the screen.
But
Bobby,
I love it though. I love it though. I love that type of engagement.
Yeah, the comments are interesting. I was watching them as they.
Oh, you can see them. Good. Okay.
As they flashed up, I was in the midst. I can tell you where I was as all this started. I was in the midst of a lot of arguments with people on the right wing because one of the things that I disagreed with them about was about healthcare. And so,
what is your stance on that?
Well, I think the Republicans, they basically lost multiple elections because they became obsessed with stopping an expansion of affordable health care. I think it was the biggest mistake.
Completely agree with you. Yeah, absolutely.
They lost that. And I wrote an article.
Inconceivable.
And I wrote an article in American Thinker about that, and I was getting really badly attacked by right wingers. You probably know some of these people because Jeff, not Jeff, but people who attack him. They were saying that I was a socialist, and they were getting kind of blacklisting me from different circles. So I absolutely understand what you're saying. That I think that there are people on the right wing who, at least when it comes to matters of health, they are having a really hard time awakening to the fact of how much they lost because of their obsession with stopping healthcare expansion. And I think that their reaction to the coronavirus, in some cases, was caught in that thought pattern. I don't totally agree with what Big Haas said in terms of Trump's response, because I think that, I remember him, having daily press meetings and bringing Fauci and doing all that publicly. I think the timeline is something where people might have different memories of it. I mean, I just remember it being, there were maybe like 2 or 3 weeks where he was saying, oh, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then it was clear by March, from my memory, that everyone knew it was a big deal. At that point, my kids couldn't go to school. At that point, he was on the TV screen every day talking about the virus. So um, I agree with what you're saying in terms of there's a big problem. I interpret the crisis of coronavirus mostly through the lens of our inability to fix healthcare. That was the main thing, because I lost my job in December when I got fired by the seminary, and I did not have health insurance for several months. And I was terrified when COVID hit. I am the only one who had an income coming in, and I had a family of 4. And I was trying to tell people on the conservative side, this is a real thing. You can't just blow off the fact that millions of Americans are panicked about their health care. It's something that looms over people.
They'll just tell you, get a job, get a better job.
Right. And I argue with them about that all the time. But I think that the reason that we went through such a crisis in the face of this disease was because we didn't really have a strong healthcare system, and people are living with a very deep sense of anxiety about their healthcare. A lot of millions of Americans are scared that if they lose their job, they're not going to be able to get any treatment for anything. And that creates uncertainty, and it creates panic and anxiety. And you saw that in the stock market. I don't think it was inevitable that you have a very highly contagious disease and the stock market crashes that quickly. It could have been maybe a little bit less of a massive plunge. But because we have not been able to address the anxiety people live with when it comes to healthcare, then I think that's really the way that I see what happened with COVID. And so I guess it's a little bit separate from the issue of Trump. But I think in the debate when they brought up COVID, it was just the whole debate was so childish. It was really hard to draw anything from that and to be able to build an intelligent conversation about it.
Right.
I'm sorry for rambling. I'm just trying to.
I just real quick went and I just pulled up a timeline
Yeah.
of Trump's COVID responses. And, April 29th, it's going to go away. It's just going to go away. And then in May, he's talking about reopening, and he's, it's like he's not really still grasping it at this point, where he knew in February. He's talking to Bob Woodward in January and February saying, this is dangerous. This can kill you. This is bad. But he's not saying that to us. And he's the leader of our country, whether we like him or not, whether we consider him our president or not, whether we consider him, capable or not. We're in May, and he's still not really saying, hey, this is what needs to happen. This is what, and then he goes and he's in an interview saying, hey, 100,000 deaths, it is what it is.
It's akin almost.
That type of laissez-faire attitude trickles down, especially to your hardcore believers and those people who support you. They're going to follow your lead because attitudes reflect leadership, just like they said, remember the Titans. So if people follow him, they're going to take on that attitude. And that is what contributes to 200 and something thousand deaths. And are all the deaths his fault? No. But he did not cause the virus. He did not bring it here. But his handling of it, especially in the early stages with his attitude, because we're in May at 75,000 deaths, and he's still not really taking a hardline approach to get through to his followers. That type of reaction to what has come contributes to what we have now.
Yeah, there's still people talking about, oh, it's just the flu, you know what I mean? And it's not the flu. It's something like something like 6 times the magnitude of the flu or something of that nature.
And here in America,
it's not 40 times like they said it was going to be. Some people, true, but
here in America, the mortality rate is just under 3%. Now worldwide, you're looking at 0.0 something. But here's the thing: I know people who have quote unquote recovered. I know 13 people who've died. I know 18 people who've had it. 8 people who've had it and recovered. Only 4 have really recovered to their pre-COVID lifestyle. I have 2 people who luckily they're clients of mine. The colleges are still going to honor their scholarships, but they can't play anymore because their lungs were so compromised. And I know two people who, for the foreseeable future, because of what COVID did to their kidneys, they're going to be on dialysis for the foreseeable future. So when we talk about, people want to focus on the mortality rate, but more and more research is coming out about the lasting impacts of it, where you're living, but you're not living like you used to. Now, I know me, if I got COVID and I lived, but I couldn't dance anymore, I couldn't run anymore, I couldn't work out anymore, I couldn't train anymore.
Right.
Is that really living for me? That's a slow death. That's a slow death for me. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, I think here's the thing. The way I look at it, it was an exceptional disease. There weren't a lot of precedents for it. There are things that I can look at leaders and say, they could have done this differently, they could have done that differently.
Right.
But I don't attribute all of the suffering that has come from the disease and lay it at the foot of a leader.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I agree with you.
Because if he had gone out there and he said, "Look, this is a deadly disease. Many of you people are going to die from it. Everyone just hold up."
It doesn't say that.
Right.
I mean, you say, "Hey, wear a mask.
Yeah.
Wash your hands. Do this." This is if he comes out and just simply says, "This is a very deadly disease. I need you all to come together as a nation and follow these protocols."
Right. Well, I think the thing about it is that, okay, so at the debate, for instance, Joe Biden, he brings up the economic crash that happened from COVID, and then he brings up the deaths. And my thing is, if we had shut down the economy 3 weeks earlier, we would still be at the same situation where after a certain amount of time, the economy is shut down and you do have to reopen.
Would we be at the same amount of deaths though?
I don't know. That's a tough one because you look at, like, so for instance, in New York, which had that really, really high death rate, and it seemed that in that particular demographic, in that particular population, being locked up at home with elderly people who are vulnerable, spending all their time at home with the younger people, that actually didn't work out well.
That's the same way that it was in Italy, because that's the same issue they had in Italy, where a lot of people live with their older relatives and stuff like that. And was, if you recall, was really bad there in March and April.
But what were those younger people doing
in Italy?
I'm just saying. If everybody's at home, how does the disease get spread?
Well, it's still, because you go to the supermarket, you have to go to the gas station.
Are you doing what you're supposed to do when you go? Because they were showing in Italy a lot of people not following the damn rules at first.
Yeah,
that's one of the places where, and we got to kind of move on to this because we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. So I'm going to steer us away, but it just kind of put a bow on this real quick. Our freedom is important, but in a way, let's be honest, our freedoms are in this particular case, we're kind of our enemy here, because people don't want to give those up. And I'm not saying that makes you a bad person.
But you sacrifice for the good of the nation, though. You sacrifice but people don't, for your fellow man.
People don't care about other people.
Supposed to be about.
People don't care about other people. And Trump, a lot of what Trump did early on was fine. It was always his side chatter that was the problem, because his supporters listened to that. And they don't care. They don't look at what policy he enacted, because he pushed most of it to the states. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he did.
But
he didn't want the responsibility.
Right. But they look at the side chatter and then they think
that's what he really thinks.
It's that it's actually a threat, and like 15 people died and it'll go away any day, that sort of thing. But moving on from COVID, let's get to real quick here. We do have two comments I want to get to. Chaz says the states were allowed to make their own decisions about regulations, but Trump attacked the blue states for having more precautions and still having higher COVID numbers, inciting people to ignore regulations. He also said if we stop testing, COVID numbers will go down, which obviously was true, but also dumb. Further undermining prevention measures in all states. And then Kwasi, our guy Q, I love that picture of him there with the gun. He's by the way, 761st Gun Club. It's an African American gun club, so that Haas is a member of. So if you like 2A, there's a place for you. As a former military member, our commander-in-chief shouldn't act this way. In the military, we are expected to be professional at all times. Our president or future president-elect should be as well. It's expected. So thank you guys for those comments. And then we also had a comment from Mark. It looks like from Mark at Massive Late Fee, our overlord. Hope Hicks has tested positive for COVID, and now Trump and Melania are in quarantine. So some interesting developments there.
I wonder if he's going to try to have a rally still while he's in quarantine.
Of course he will, because he doesn't care about that. He'll say, I'm far enough away. But anyway, so let's go to the Proud Boys. So as you heard there, and we do have some stuff we want to talk about with Bobby, specific to what he does. But as far as the Proud Boys go, what were your thoughts on that, Bobby? And I want to get it. Why don't we just roundtable? We'll go Bobby, Mikey, and then Big Haas.
I don't really have a lot to say on it.
Yeah, Haas, get your phone away from your mic interface. You fuck.
What are you talking about?
Me? What
no, Mikey. I'm Big Haas. I mean,
what are you talking about?
Move your phone is right by your. There you go.
Is that making interference?
Yeah, it's Wisconsin. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
sorry. I said Bobby. I didn't. I meant to say Big Hussein.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bobby. Sorry.
I'm totally off script right now.
I don't have much to say about the Proud Boys comment and the white supremacy. I'm exhausted dealing with racial discussions. That's just where I'm at. I feel like I'm 50 years old and we've had the same discussions so many times. And I threw all my hopes into one party, then I threw all my hopes into the other party. I think that we're at a point as a country where, there's got to be some substantial action taken. And a lot of it's going to be at a really mundane level of, like I did a lot of work where I was working to try to expand the curriculum and to create internship opportunities. And I started a drama club to try to showcase African-American and Mexican-American history. And I love putting my effort into that. And so the minute that the debate got into this thing of, is he a racist or is he a racist? I just tune out. And maybe that's irresponsible on my part, but I just feel like as you go through your week, you can lose 3 days in getting really riled up about that, and then it doesn't really move forward. So
let me do this. Let me take the race element out of it.
Okay. Right.
Even if you extract the race element out of it and take the question out of it as to, are the Proud Boys racist or are they not? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're an organization that flies Confederate flags a lot. So it's safe to say there's some people in it that are, but
that romantic.
Let's pull that out. Okay.
Okay. Right.
What Trump did is he said, stand back and stand by to the Proud Boys.
Right.
And what he is referring to is if things start to go crazy around the election, this is what I heard.
Just if things don't go his way.
Yeah, if things start to don't go his way, that's exactly correct. Or if they see something, basically to me, he's calling out militia groups and groups that show up in riot gear with guns to basically police polling places and make their own determinations as to who is or who is not,
right.
Committing voter fraud, so community policing. I thought that the right hated defund the police. Apparently they want to do their own community policing now. And when you look at it from that angle, as to say, hey, he's telling people who are obviously go out to look for fights. I don't think there's any mischaracterization there whatsoever.
Boys, they're definitely. I didn't know a lot about them, and then I did look up some of the things. So I see. I loved Gavin.
That's okay. You only know what you know when you know it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love Gavin McInnes's show. I thought he was a really funny comedian and all this stuff. But
he's pulled away from them though too. He's not really.
Yeah. He withdrew from them. But I did see that they did get involved in a lot of violence, and I didn't know about the Confederate flags until you just told me that. Okay, so I'll just tell you what happened that night when they were doing it. I happen to speak French. It's a long story as to why I'm francophone. Maybe I'll tell you that story sometime.
Oh,
But
francophone. Ooh.
yeah.
Oh, la, la.
So I follow a lot of people.
Ah, oui, oui.
I follow a lot of people in Europe on Twitter, and and I exchange information with them. And they were trying to translate that debate into French, and it's actually really hilarious because you see these actors trying to, in real time, mimic what they're saying, and
That must have been hilarious.
it was hilarious. And to try to translate three terms, stand down, stand back, and stand by, into French was really hard. It was really hard. And the one thing I'm going to say is that it made me realize that the prepositions in English are always very, very vague. And, what's his name? Chris Wallace said, "Will you tell them to stand down?" And then Trump said, "Stand back and stand by." I'm willing to be on the fence about this as to whether when he said stand by, he means like be on standby and be ready to jump in, or whether he was just trying to say what Chris Wallace told him that he wanted him to say, which was stand down. You know what I
Down
mean?
doesn't sound like bye.
Well, but he said stand back and stand by. I mean, it's like three different prepositions,
Trump isn't speaking French. Trump is speaking English.
Yeah,
we
but
know what down and by means.
Yeah, but he speaks French the way a lot of people speak.
Who speaks French?
I mean, he speaks English, but Trump speaks English in a bumbling way. I mean, he's not, it's like he talks as if English isn't his native language.
He talks as if he's a second grader.
Yeah, he repeats the same things over and over again. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people feel like it was a dog whistle saying stand by, as in like, be on whatever.
I just believe here's the thing. I'm kind of stepping on Mikey here, but to a paramilitary group, what does stand by mean? Wait further orders. That's what stand by means. Stand down means stop what you're doing.
And
stand back means fade to back, pull back a little bit.
Retrograde.
But stand by, be ready. You're still on alert, but be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because when further orders come, get on in there.
On stand back and stand by. Yeah, it was. You know what? I'll say this. It was not a good choice of words. It was not a good choice of words. So I'm not.
But I think it was. It wasn't a good choice of words.
Yeah.
If you don't mean what you're saying, and if you're not trying to carry that base, it's not a good choice. I don't think that he said that unintentionally.
So the thing
I don't think he phrased it that way unintentionally.
So the thing is, like, when Trump wants to say he doesn't want to do something, I think he has a plethora of words that he can always pull at the ready for something that, no, I'm not going to do it. No, why don't you ask him to ask a question? Why don't you, like, he's very good at directing and steering people during a conversation. But when it came to directing and steering one group of people into one sort of action, now we're in the, which preposition? I mean, he could have said down, back, down, bottom, like, you know what I mean?
Let me show you guys.
He could have simply said, when Biden said Proud Boys, he could have said, I denounce the Proud Boys and their entire ideology.
But that's the thing, is I think he did not want to do that.
Exactly, and that's the problem. That's the problem.
Well, he clearly didn't want to do it. And let me show you something, guys, here real quick. You're gonna get a really bad screen effect here for 1 second because I'm gonna share this my screen here. But
or watch this. You have a producer. So now we're gonna look at Big Haz. Go ahead and do what you need to do. What up, Cortez?
All right, so there you can put it. You can put it back on there now. You missed out on the psychedelics. Here's a quick psychedelic for you. Woohoo! Psychedelic. Blah, 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 blah.
Stop showing in my private chat.
Hey, Mikey's on those edibles, so don't have it up
you
there
guys,
too long.
You guys are familiar with Parler, right? So I have a Parler account. So let's just take a look at a few screenshots from Parler. President Trump has always been the proudest of the Proud Boys. Notice the symbol that he's holding up here.
What's that?
It's a OK symbol.
Yeah.
So the guy purposely picked a picture of Trump throwing up the what a lot of the Proud Boys also use this, but it's also used by white supremacists, right? It started as a joke, and then they started using it for real. Nice seeing y'all at the Cleveland presidential debate. The Proud Boys came and walked with pride. We even got a friendly visit from the city police as well as the National Guard. Stand back and stand by. Okay, one more for you, maybe two. Message received. And by the way, this is going to be the title of this podcast. I'm standing by for your standby, by the way. So, you
Right.
know, I own guns too.
And
So
people think that non-conservatives don't like guns or don't have guns. Come on now, quit playing.
there was one that I thought I had gotten here. I'll post it in the bottom because I don't want people to think I'm lying. But
that they were really excited about.
They were pumped
that the president didn't denounce them. Yeah,
and one guy said, I can't wait for standby to be over, and I know which neighbor's going first. Like he posted that on fucking Parlor.
Yeah.
Like and these are the guys who are, you know, going to be the voice of the right wing right now. I mean, come on. It doesn't make it.
I think, yeah,
you got to denounce that yourself, right? As a
well,
Trump supporter.
What
you want Kyle Rittenhouses everywhere? I mean, people are looking at Kyle Rittenhouse as a hero. He's not a hero. I don't know what your thoughts are on him, but you know, that's the behavior that he wants. He wants extra policing from groups that are on his side. Simple.
I think, okay, if you look at the debate, at what Trump was saying, what he was trying to do was he was trying to rush really quickly into talking about the left, the extreme left. That's what he wanted to talk about. Now, the reason why I can feel kind of sympathetic to that is I had, during my years as a professor, I had to deal with the extreme left, and no one ever talked about it. No one ever talked about the fact that there were extreme left-wing groups, that they were violent, that they were moving towards violence, and that they were doxing people. They got me driven out of jobs. They dragged a knife across my Army stickers on my door. They tore my Army flag. They mobbed me. They attacked me. I got tear gassed in Paris. So I've dealt with a lot of the extreme left-wing groups. And the difference between the extreme left wing and the extreme right wing is the extreme left wing, really almost nobody talks about the fact that that movement, it's only been recently that people have even acknowledged that that was going on and that was happening. So when I had to go through all of that, my mentality was like, no one even knows that I'm putting up with this stuff. No,
Sure.
You know, like my own family members, I would call my brother and sister and they thought I was making it up. They didn't even believe it. You know, my emails got hacked. You know, they try to go after your family members, and you know they get
Show
violent.
us the emails. Show me the emails.
Yeah, they get violent. When I was at Catholic University, you know, I was getting a little bit scared. I mean, there was a mob of people. They're screaming at me and all other stuff. So I think that the Proud Boys. I just, part of me would say, I'm not going to denounce it because I'm not going to just give that over to the other side and then have them never address their own problems on their side.
Well, then why wouldn't Trump say, listen, I denounce the Proud Boys and their entire ideology. Can you denounce violent Antifa action?
Well, but he had the debate started with that as the starting point, because he was asking Biden, he had asked him to condemn Antifa, you know, and then Mark Phillips here says, get the fuck out of here with this false equivalency. I mean, this is the thing, is it's like everyone is going to be focused on the side of it that they see the most threat from, and the side that they don't feel threatened by, they're just going to kind of sweep under the rug. I mean, so
hey, Bobby, I got a question for you though.
Right.
And you don't have to get into specifics or anything like that, right. But you know, you've said a few times that the radical left or the extreme left has come after you. What has been their basis of their attention on you? What's been going on? Is it just your ideology in general? Is it something felt like you said or did?
Yeah, and,
Right.
and I don't think what we're trying to do is say,
Right.
what did you do to deserve it?
Right.
That's not
Right.
where we're going. But like,
Fuller context on
was
why.
it something that was taken as misogynistic or what did they come
Okay,
after
yeah.
you for?
I was a sexual abuse survivor, and
Right.
I was not abused by a closeted self-hating phobe. I was abused in the gay community by people who were, I mean, I grew up in a gay home. I had a gay parent. And so I had been sexually abused in that environment, in the out and loud, proud gay world. And in 2012, when I came forward with my story, that was a time period where if you said abuse and homosexuality in the same sentence, it was game over. It was game over. And they would not tolerate that in any way whatsoever. The only way that you could talk about that is if you immediately got out there and said, oh, but the gay community does not have an abuse problem. And, you know, and
I see.
Did you see? And so, and that,
Right.
that mushroom, and then all of the work that I had done on race, I had done so much work, progressive work on race, all that just blew up.
Right.
Because white liberals, they put up a big wall between me and then the ethnic communities I've been working for.
We're not here
yeah.
to defend the
No.
we're very aware and we attack listen.
Yeah.
When Trump hopefully leaves office on January 20th, 21st, whatever date it is.
Yeah.
We go right into fuck Biden mode.
Yeah, we're gonna hold his feet to the fucking fire.
This is not a Biden apologist show or a Democrat apologist show.
Yeah.
You know, raise your hand if you liked Hillary Clinton.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess
raise your hand if you're
sure.
Raise your hand if you called out Obama on a few things.
Well,
yeah, we call out Obama on a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
all the time. Obama should not be on Mount Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I didn't say his name.
Yeah, I just think that ultimately I can understand somebody saying, I'm not going to jump in and condemn someone when you ask me to condemn on cue, when there's all this other stuff that other people haven't addressed.
I think you can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, though.
And I think
if he had said,
I condemn that. I condemn violence in all its forms, from the Proud Boys to the other side of Antifa.
To Antifa, right? If Chris Wallace had said, "Trump, will you condemn Antifa?" There would have been no
just like that
hesitation whatsoever, right? I think that the same. If you had asked Joe Biden, "Do you condemn Antifa?" He would have said, "Absolutely, I condemn their violent actions." Right? Antifa, though, is more or less of a mindset. If it was, I am anti-fascist. The Proud Boys are a hyper-fascist organization. They said so right on their website. Yeah. It says right on their website.
Western chauvinists.
Western chauvinists, right? That believe in no race. Now they also claim to be anti-racist. But but then they say, well, we're not race guilt. So in other words, we don't have to worry about. They think that the pendulum from when the Civil Rights Act was signed, that immediately everyone was equal, and that nobody ever has any systemic issues whatsoever after that day.
I think they put that in there because criminal. Criminal says I sell cocaine. I don't sell. I'm an accountant. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
you know what I
mean. Bobby, we'll let you. We got to move to our next segment.
Yeah,
Go ahead and wrap up your thought, and then we'll move on. So
with the amount of information that I knew about the Proud Boys on that night, I would not have denounced them because I can understand that. Because it's a game, and this whole and I have been on the receiving end of it in terms of people that I worked with. They were pressured to denounce me, because people will send you quotes of, oh, look, he said this, and the quote's taken out of context, and it makes you look really awful. Or people, I remember when I gave a presentation at Stanford, the students, they ask you questions to try to trap you, and then, and then they reproduce that. So that whole game, I just try to stay out of it.
I understand what you're saying. You can only be governed by your experiences at times, and if you didn't have information to contextualize, then you revert back to what your experience has been. So I understand that.
I understand it too. There's no difference from a woman who's battered by a man and then has issues trusting men. I get that that's the case. but it's also an issue where it gets used a lot
I have to share
wrong sometimes because of the fact that, for example, I've had I went to I'm not, this isn't something actually happened. I'm just saying a person could say, I had a black guy, stick up my liquor store, or I had a black guy, that the black guy next door smokes weed. I see him in his yard all the time. So therefore, I don't want my kids hanging out with any black people.
Right.
That sort of thing. So,
right.
I guess we have a share screen here real quick from our producer extraordinaire. What we got here? What are we looking at for the audio podcast listener?
Tonight, at Flotus and I tested positive for COVID-19. We begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together.
Wait a minute. He tested positive?
Yep, as of 9 minutes
ago.
Trump tested positive, or
wow?
I'm going to verify this real quick.
That's why
I'll tell you what.
I already verified it because
we'll come back to.
The whole pics thing just went through, but that's from his Twitter account.
Yeah,
and it's been.
I'm going to try to do some additional verification on that, but in the meantime, we have another segment that we're going to do here real quick.
Okay, can I say one little thing to?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Jason, Mikey, and Big Haas. I hope that we can stay in touch and we can be friends over the long term, and at some point we can have a conversation and just Trump won't be part of it.
No,
where are you?
I cannot wait until Trump is not the subject of conversation.
We want to talk about the DC and Marvel universes again, right? That's what we want to do.
But it's my fault because I brought up Mount Rushmore and I said I was joking.
No.
Bobby, where are you in Texas?
I'm in Dallas.
Okay, my cousin lives in Dallas.
All right. Well,
then both my cousins live in Dallas, actually.
Yeah, we can go shooting together. You said you like.
Oh, I love to shoot.
Yeah, we can go
shoot. And I meant to say this earlier, but I forgot to unmute myself because Dutch yelled at me for not muting myself.
Mute yourself.
Yeah.
You gonna let me get in that? Can I get into the clubhouse? Y'all got the club.
Hey, what you gotta say, Mike?
Y'all got the club with the brothers and the guns. Like,
yes,
you got my
761st Gun Club.
You get me
761st Gun Club on Facebook, dude.
Can I be like?
I gotta get to a meeting. I've been BS, and I gotta get to a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, actually, we're gonna go to the humidor segment here, but though, but did you have a thought, real quick, Bobby, on the governor of Texas today mandated that every county will only have one mail-in ballot drop-off box? Have you looked at the story at all?
I haven't looked at the story.
Okay. So take a pic, because to me that's voter suppression 101.
Yeah, I was going to say in teacher speak that would be the class would be called VS 101.
Yeah.
That's like okay, so let's go to everyone, everybody their favorite segment.
Welcome to the Humidor with Big Haas. Find out what Haas is puffing and drinking today. If you try his suggestion and you die, that is natural selection, and the VFU podcast is not responsible for you being weak effing sauce. Now, the one,
come on, Bobby,
the only, Big Haas.
Dance?
No, go ahead, dance, Bobby.
I'm not on drugs.
Big Hussein, tell us about your cigar and what you're eating today, young fella.
You know what? I'm not eating anything, actually.
Oh, good. It'll be a shorter humidor.
I'm over here getting a little snooted. I made it a triple, but I still went through it. But as far as what I'm smoking today, I am smoking the 708 cigars, Barber Pole, Big Fella. And as you can see, pause, it's a big fella. All right?
Wait, real quick, is it from a certain place?
The owners, the manufacturers of this brand are actually based out of south suburbs of Chicago. Okay.
I'm gonna get there's nothing from Nicaragua?
Nothing from Nicaragua. But I'll tell you, there's some special things about this cigar. One of the biggest things is it's a barber pole. Now, remember the old school barber poles that would be outside of the barber shop, right? With the ribbon, the red and white.
You have a comment there too. You have a comment there too, Big Haas, for your humidor.
Playing along with the humidor at home. I'm drinking Coors Light and ripping Pyramid 100s.
Thank you, Chad.
Coors Light. All right.
Silver bullet, baby.
This is a barber pole cigar, which means it is a triple wrapper.
Ooh.
Okay. So the outside, as you can see, has the dark, the very light, and the medium shade.
Like a pepper.
That's 3 different types of leaf for the wrapper. Okay. The light portion that you see is an Ecuadorian Connecticut shade leaf. All right. The medium portion that you see, that brownish portion that you see there, the light brown here, is a San Andreas Habano leaf. And then the dark leaf that you see here at the cap and down here a little bit, I smoked so much of this damn cigar, but you can see down there, that is a Ecuadorian Maduro leaf. So you're getting 3 different types of flavor and experience in one cigar.
3 for 1.
Okay.
Inconceivable.
Conceivable. And also, this has a sweetened cap. So that means this. Like
You're gonna love my nuts.
I've talked about infused cigars before, and I've talked about non-infused cigars before. This is a non-infused cigar, but the cap has a little bit of sweetener on it. And
dip the tip
a little sugar.
You dip
like,
the tip in sugar?
Just a tip, baby. Just a tip in that sweet honey pot. Pause. Now, it's called the Big Fella because
it's standing by for your standby.
It's an 8.5 by 68 ring gauge. So it's 8.5 inches long, pause, by 68 ring gauge. And if you know anything about measurements, 64 is an inch. So we're talking about 1.25 inches here.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
All right. I would define this as a mild to medium cigar. I think that on some of the descriptions of it I read, they called it a medium, but I would call it a mild to medium. But that's just because of my palate. Okay, my palate leans towards a preference for stronger cigars. So anything less than strong, I'm calling it a mild to medium. And that's what I would call this cigar.
Excuse me, sir. I'm running late as usual. Some jerk pushed me in the lockers named Dutch. Just wondering.
Fucking Dutch.
Look at my African American over here.
That is copyrighted. I just want to know, what would they dip the tip into for, adding of the sweetening agents? Is it sugar, molasses, honey, maybe a pink lemonade? I'm just asking questions.
Possibly semen.
Gross. Gross. You're nasty.
He's a habitual line stepper.
You're nasty.
Don't ever say semen again.
What? I was on a boat.
Actually, it's most likely an artificial
dog-faced pony soldier.
It's an artificial sweetener. It's a little. It tastes a little bit like brown sugar to me. But
that's
the
D'Angelo song.
I want some of your brown sugar.
Ooh. Oh man, D'Angelo was the soundtrack for a lot of sessions when I was young. Anyway,
you couldn't miss.
Couldn't miss. Right.
How's you gonna get us in trouble? Stop saying everything.
Oh shit. Anyway,
you're gonna get attacked from the left. Watch out.
Anyway, like I said, it's a mild to medium to me. It's like I said, it's gotten the sweetened tip. Pause. But beyond that, there's a little bit of spiciness to it. A very small hint of earth as I make it my way through the cigar. A little bit of remember last week I was talking about a dark coffee. This is more of a lighter roast coffee that I can sense. And again, that's just for me. This cigar smoking is wonderful in its subjectivity. So please keep that in mind when I'm doing these reviews, because you might experience a totally different thing. And I like it. It's not very complex though. You know what I mean? It's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, I can smell charcoal, or I can smell leather, or I sense this or that. It's spicy. It's got a sweeter spice to it, like a nutmeg or a cinnamon or something like that, or a brown sugar. to it. It's got a little bit of nuttiness, not a whole lot. Like a lighter coffee bean. You know, but it's not super complex in its blend. But it's a pretty good cigar, and I have it paired with a whiskey sour. Now, my whiskey sour today, normally I make it with Gentleman Jack, but today I made my whiskey sour with Wild Turkey Long Branch, and that's Matthew McConaughey's whiskey. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I may have went a little heavy on the juice, the lemon juice, just a touch. So it's a little sweeter. It's a little tartar than I like. You know what I mean? I went a little heavy on the lemon juice, and I went a little light, I think, on the simple syrup. Simple syrup. So it's not as sweet as I would like. I would probably like that inverse. Excuse me. But when I take a sip of the drink and then I take a puff, I'm gonna do it right now.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Then. There's a little retro hail.
The citrus of the lemon in here actually translates almost to a little bit of orange peel or something like that. A hint, just a little bit. But then the sweetness takes over because of the sweetened tip, and because the cigar is so mild to me, the sweetness takes over, and it almost tastes like a cherry wine candy. Y'all know what wine candy is?
Yeah.
I think in the Caucasian community they call them Jolly Ranchers. It tastes like a cherry Jolly Rancher a little bit. So that's cool. You know, when I was smoking it naked, it was like I said, it was just the sweetened tip followed by the little bit of coffee bean, some of a lighter spice, things like that. But on a leaf scale, I might give this like 4 leaves, 3.75 to 4 leaves. It's not necessarily, you know, the burn is nice and even. I've only had to touch it up a couple times. I haven't had to relight it though, which is important in a cigar like this. Normally a cigar like this, you end up with the girth on this pause on this cigar. You have to, you know, if you sit it down and you're not tending it, it's not really going to stay lit. But it's staying lit pretty well.
It's lit.
Puts out a mild smoke. It's not too heavy. Some people prefer a lot of smoke. I don't really care whether it's a lot of smoke or not. I just don't want it to be so little smoke that I can't tell if it's lit or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the construction is pretty good. Now, let me see if I can get it close enough here for you to see. You see the veins on the wrapper there?
It's very veiny. Pause.
This is what I have to deal with.
Have you lost your damn mind?
Now, some cigar smokers do not like their wrapper to be veiny. They want it smooth. Pause. You sound like Beavis and Butthead.
Similar to some porn stars.
Oh, I see. I'm not even that deep in the porn world to know that people have. But anyway,
I didn't know you were in it at all.
Oh man, come on now, quit playing. I could not smell a date till I was 21 years old. What do you think? Anyway,
the 708 Lexington Steel.
Real man of genius.
Got him.
Here's to you, Mr. Porn Dick Evaluator. So,
I love the fact that Bobby's cracking up to the crude humor.
Oh, this is a 3.75 to 4 leaf stick pause. Now it does come in other vitolas. It comes in a shaggy, which is like 6 by 58, I believe.
One more question. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
What is a vitola exactly? Is that a French meal? Perhaps some sort of Belgian dog? Like, what is that?
It's a women's shoe.
The vitola or vitola depends on the bouginess of who you're talking to. I kind of use that.
What would the Proud Boys call it?
They would say the shape of the cigar, the size. They don't know what vitola or vitola means. I use those pronunciations interchangeably. You know, sometimes I'll say vitola, sometimes I'll say vitola, but I like vitola. But it's just saying that that's the type of cigar it is as far as the dimensions and the shape of the cigar. So like I said, the Shaggy is like 6 by 58. Now, some people might call it a Toro, you know, and then they call this one a big fella, and this might be basically called a Gordo, fat. You know what I mean? And then there's a smaller version, and the name that they call it escapes me right now, but some people might call that a Robusto. That's a smaller one. So there's different iterations of this cigar, and let me tell you, the 708 Barber Pole and any other cigar you get, the shape makes a difference. Size matters. Pause. Okay. Smaller cigar, you're gonna have a different experience with it. A large cigar like this, it's a 3.75 to 4 to me. The Robusto might be a 4.5 to me, depending on the differences in how it was made and things like that. But the shape of the cigar, because you get more wrapper, so you get more flavor. So the flavor that I'm missing right now, if there is any, I might pick up in a Robusto or a Lancero if there was a Lancero version of this.
Could the
cigar.
word you're looking for be Corona, Lonsdale, Torpedo, or Robusto?
Those are different vitolas, yes. Okay. That's quick keyboard work. Good. You got good fingers.
You got a Petite Corona, Gordito, Robusto, Corona, Toro, Gordo, Panatella, Lansdale, Churchill, Lancero,
yes.
Double Corona, and a Gran Corona.
Speaking of Corona, real quick, did you guys see my video I posted on the Corona seltzer?
Yes, that was hilarious.
Yeah, so I dumped them all down the sink because they're made with sugar alcohol and they taste horrible and they don't get you drunk.
Trash.
Yeah, garbage. So go White Claw if you're gonna drink.
My
stuff.
wife sent me a video of a dude dancing and drinking some seltzer. I think it was a Bud Light seltzer or something like that, and it was hilarious because I laugh anytime I see a man holding a seltzer.
Well, I'm holding one right now.
And that's a goddamn shame. You know something? When I was looking up information on the Proud Boys and found, ain't no laws when you're holding a White Claw.
White Claw came up. Yeah.
But one of the co-founders.
I denounced the White Claw.
Yes, you got to denounce that shit. But one of the co-founders
down my gullet.
of the Proud Boys is actually an Afro-Cuban dude, and they showed him somewhere shaking hands and greeting people. And of course, he had on his tactical vest, and he had a White Claw shoved down the front of the vest. And I was like, this motherfucker here, he got a White Claw out in public? Come on, man.
Hey, you know what? They're a nice drink on a hot. They're kind of like Zimas back in the day.
But you drink that shit, you should not be filmed with no goddamn White Claw in your hand.
Well, too bad.
Get yourself a green screen and a green cup like me.
Right. You gotta cover that shit up, man. And
I drink and I know things.
Hey, White Claw, we need our money too.
Yeah.
Send the check.
Even though I was shitting on y'all.
Speaking of money, listener, again, if you want to support the show, you can do so at www.patreon.com/VFU podcast. Also, if you are listening to this show on YouTube or if you're listening to this show on Periscope or Facebook or Dailymotion or Twitch or any of the channels that we are on, do us a favor, go over to YouTube, search for Voice from the Underground, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/VFU podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube page, because that is the biggest way that you can help this show other than sending money to us, which of course you want to do that, you can. But if you don't have it, don't. Just subscribe to YouTube or leave us a review on iTunes.
Put that up on the screen for us there, producer.
Yeah, producer, get on that. But the YouTube, do go over to the YouTube channel. It is a long link. Once we get to 100 subscribers, now we've only had this YouTube for like 3-4 weeks. We're at 93. subscribers right now. So we need 7 more subscribers. Once we get that, the way I understand it,
we lost 2.
then
We're
we
down to
can-
91.
Okay, that well, all right, I may have
Damn it, we
miscounted.
shouldn't have had Bobby on. God,
Yeah, see, Bobby,
damn.
you've cost us 2 YouTube subscribers.
Wait, what happened? What did I do?
You were just here. They heard Trump and Rushmore, and it
we
went away.
lost 2 followers on subscribers on YouTube.
Well, the bad thing is
as soon as we started talking Bobby, I don't know what happened.
we still have so few that we know how many we have. But again, the
Right.
YouTube channel is very new. So, to have 90 in a couple of weeks is actually not a terrible thing. So subscribe on YouTube, listener, if you can, please do subscribe on YouTube. Get us over 100. And then once we get that, we get to, the way I understand it, we get to have our own custom URL. So
correct.
Another.
Well, I'm very sorry that I'm driving away your followers.
we would have done it. We would have done it if you didn't do it. So
it was in the cards for tonight.
It was. So let's talk. Yeah, let's actually. We just got a message from Tony at Jock and Nerd. Thanks, Tony. Did you see Trump tested positive for COVID? I know you guys he knows we're recording. But I guess you're not watching, Tony. You shit. So yeah, we're talking about that right now. So
live updates, bitch.
And Bobby, I'm sorry, we got to push what you do off for just a second here. Your gut shot reaction to we don't know much, but it is confirmed by CNN. Of course, that's fake news, right? So
you are fake news.
It was confirmed by me.
He's using sympathy. He's using sympathy to get more votes.
It's possible. What are you thinking? Do you think maybe he just doesn't want to debate again, possibly because he did so bad last night?
I think who knows? Who knows? I mean, he's kind of following the footstep of the Brazilian president. Remember how he got, and then the British prime minister. It's kind of a thing,
The Brazilian president loves Trump, man. He's like Trump Jr., like Hugo Chavez Jr.
Trump.
Yes,
Hugo Chavez reborn.
Yeah. He's really into Trump. I don't know. I mean, it'll probably make it so he can't campaign a lot. He might use it to his advantage by saying, "Look, I overcame it."
Yeah, look at me.
Yeah.
Hydroxychloroquine and bleach.
Yeah. So
right.
I think it's important for us to keep in mind all the leaders that people who are in really, really impactful positions who get that disease. We got to pray that they come out of it.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that he recovers, and a part of his brain is affected that lets him change a little bit.
Do you remember ever a time?
Real quick, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
If you're on the left right now, I just want to. This just popped up because someone just messaged me and they said something about. Looks like we'll have Pence as president before the election.
Do that.
Yeah, don't listen.
Do that.
You do not fucking wish death on fucking anybody.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not what I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bobby, but this message just came across my desk. No, you don't fucking do that.
Nope.
Okay, because the next thing you know, it'll be your parent.
Well, you know what?
I denounce that message that you received,
well,
man.
I'll
it was a joke, but still.
Yeah.
Anybody that feels that way, that really feels that way, I denounce that.
Yeah, I'll add to that that if you're on the right wing and you felt like when Chrissy Teigen had her miscarriage, you wanted to like make jokes about the fact that she's pro-choice. That's the kind of thing I would say I would denounce. Let's have some class. But do you guys remember before Trump? Was there ever a president that I guess became so much the topic of conversation? What do y'all think?
Nixon.
Clinton.
Well,
Nixon and Clinton.
Clinton was big.
Hey, Clinton getting some toppy up in the Oval Office. That's
I was in my late 20s when all that went down, and I don't remember ever really talking to people about Clinton.
Oh man, we talked about it.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I
used to listen to Mancow's Morning Madhouse.
Oh, Mancow Mueller. I loved him.
That guy.
He was, but he got so anti. Hey, Tony. Hi, Tony from Jock and Nerd. We see you.
Yeah.
But he got so hung up on Clinton and with like the talking about the helicopters chasing him and everything like that. It was almost like that movie. What was the one where the helicopters are chasing the guy who's while he's making the sauce? I can't remember the name. Goodfellas, right?
Oh
where,
yeah.
Where the helicopter, there's a helicopter behind me. You're crazy. No, it's right there.
It's right there.
That was a huge topic of conversation too. And this whole Trump being, now that Trump has tested positive for COVID, this is going to set off a shitstorm. We pray that he recovers. Okay.
He may be asymptomatic,
but there's going to be a lot of people on the left who are like, and this has happened to Trump supporters too. Like, it's hard to sympathize with people who were so defiant of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not going to wish that. Tony,
he's going to use these 14 days for debate prep, dude.
Yeah, that's
come back out for one last debate.
I'm not even sure I 100% believe that he has COVID, but
isn't that terrible? Isn't that terrible to say though? But it's like, man, this mug probably scared to debate again, and he's got to go and really hunker down for 2 weeks. And
he just did so badly. Bobby, I'll let you give your thoughts on it, but we want to get into you. I know we've taken almost an hour and 30 minutes to get there, but
that's cool.
So your thoughts? Anybody have any quick thoughts on? Oh, there's Tony right there. Debate prep. That doesn't. Yeah, that fool doesn't prepare. Exactly.
Yeah. Bobby, what are your thoughts
on COVID and Trump and COVID?
Yeah. How is this going to affect the election?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have just gotten used to the idea that this is the worst year ever that I've lived through. And I'm assuming that on election night, we're never going to know who won. And there's
we won't know on election night. It'll be
it's that there's going to be massive unrest. So I'm just trying to get ready for any outcome. It's going to be hard to predict.
I'm trying to tell you. Hope you got your CCP or whatever they call it down there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think like a lot of people really are getting ready for a civil war.
Hey, you know what you got to do is you got to deck out your car with some Trump stickers and wear Trump stuff all the time.
No.
As a Mexican dude, man, you know how it be. They look first and shoot, and then they're like, oh, he's got a MAGA hat in the car.
I should try that. I do have the red hat. Have the red hat, but
it was going so well.
Yeah, but I've never worn it in public. I want to see what it's like to wear it in public. I don't have anything on my car.
You're gonna get some chocolates thrown at you, dude.
Yeah.
You're gonna get love. You're gonna get love and hate. There's gonna be no middle.
Yeah.
Hey, he's one of the good ones.
You know what I saw today? A guy had it looked exactly like a Make America Great Again hat, except it said It said "Made you look." Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I almost bought one of those hats.
That's pretty funny.
That's funny. Well,
anyway, we keep stepping on you. Go ahead.
Every night I have to go to bed next to a Trump hater. To my wife, so I got to keep peace in my house.
How does that affect the bedroom, Jeanette? No,
brother. I know what you mean.
Nope.
My wife is a Trump supporter. My wife is a Trump supporter.
Hey, get out of here! Really? You're married to a Trump supporter?
Absolutely. Yeah, and like her parents refuse to wear masks.
Really?
They absolutely refuse it. So it's like, oh, we just won't go to the store. We don't want to be usurped by government control.
So what are
what I mean?
What are your rules of engagement at home? Like, are you allowed to talk politics at dinner? Are you allowed?
Well, honestly, I want to have sex, so I try to not talk about it that much.
There you go.
But also, and no disrespect, my wife is extremely bright. She's got 2 master's degrees. She's a Hispanic woman, which is somewhat confounding. But the thing is I honestly, I don't say this disrespectfully, she's totally disinformed. She has no idea of why she supports Trump. She just does because he's a Republican.
Telling her.
Yeah.
Some people do that. Some people see the R and that's it.
And she's one of those where like she's a Hispanic and she's like, well, I'm a Hispanic woman. I made it, so anybody can make it. And like, our brother Smoke had counseled her and talked to her about some stuff.
Yeah.
like 2 months ago or a month and a half ago when we were in Chicago
Mhm.
about like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. And like she had heard the same stuff from me and didn't listen to me because she just thinks I'm blinded by my Trump
The
hate.
smoke is black, man.
Exactly. And
There
like
you go.
and she listened to him. And
Of
a
course.
lot of her viewpoints have changed since then. She's still voting for Trump. She bought my dad, like my parents are Trump supporters. You know, and it's
Oh,
like, and
wow.
Bobby, I can't tell you.
See,
It's
I'm
so
jealous.
difficult to be at my house with my
Really?
parents.
Alright.
It's so difficult.
I'll solve
jealous.
this. I'll solve this. Go get the fishbowl, Haas. Put the keys in the fishbowl. We'll let fate decide.
Oh my God.
That's the only
Got
way
a
to
little
solve this.
70s swinging going on.
So if they just do an episode of Wife Swap, everything's fine.
It'd be like the Chappelle Show version.
But I'm jealous of your situation. I was raised, you know, by really far left Marxists. So it's like, yeah, every one of my family is really far left wing. I mean, really, really far left.
Well, what kind of? Because all right, that's a term that people use Marxist as a spear term. Marxism is extremely peaceful. We're not talking about Leninist Marxism,
Yes,
right?
yes, 100%.
We're talking about
let's make that clear.
For them, it's it was liberation theology. We were raised in
Right.
a liberation theology church, and it was very theoretical. It wasn't like, you know, they weren't making Molotov cocktails. I don't think they know how to, but they're very far
Have
left.
gasoline, orange juice concentrate.
And there you have it.
All right, there you have it. There you have it.
I like
Welcome
chemistry.
to the Sopranos.
Yeah.
So now I can stand by for my standby with gasoline and orange juice. Go ahead. We'll stop. We'll stop stepping on you, Bobby.
Okay.
Give us your whole spiel.
About.
Yeah. No. So I want to hear. Let me talk about what you came on here to talk about then for a few minutes before we go. You came on here to talk about just like your stances on education and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like some of the liberalism in the education system, that sort of thing. So take a few minutes and talk about like what your mojo is as far as like what your points that you want to stand on a soapbox and get on about.
Education is my thing. That's the thing that I love talking about. And I just want there to be at least one presidential election cycle where education is the number one issue. And
Completely agree with you.
I haven't yet seen it in my lifetime. It's the most important thing. I think it's an area where you can come up with massive agreement because there is huge racial discrimination in the education system, and there's also discrimination against conservatives. So you would think that this would be one area where you could find people from a lot of different political camps who could rally around trying to fix education, because you have the huge student loan debts, the tuitions are ridiculously high. The higher education is terrible because it's contributing to a class inequality at a terrible level. And the student loan debt is so onerous that there's all these people who they can't get married, they can't buy a house, and they're not having kids. So the impact on our demographics is terrible. And not to mention just the fact that the curriculum has just deteriorated, and the kind of stuff that is being taught is not preparing people for for the workforce. That's the stuff that I love to talk about. It's an area where I get to be really critical of both parties. So it's I can kind of claim to be above the fray, but
Well, I'm with that. What is like? So first of all, you sound like a liberal. But I just, but the I can feel the Marxism emanating from you. But so despite your dripping in liberalism for the moment, my thing with education is this. I want to get your thoughts on this. As someone who advocates for the Black Lives Matter movement, and I clarify that by saying I agree with the statement. I don't agree with every single thing the political activist organization says. Most of it, but there are some I don't have to agree with all that, right? Different things.
Right.
And it's very important when people ask you, do you support Black Lives Matter? Well, what are you talking about? The statement or the pack?
Right.
But I think that the main way that we get to a place where we are all equal and we have equal access to opportunity. Now, I know you're kind of more in higher ed, but even in lower ed, you can't have a school, and the Democrats totally fucking dropped the ball on this, and the Republicans, for some reason, just
Bed
don't care.
shitters. The Dems are bed shitters on so many things.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
like you
No,
can't have a school like you guys have you guys have Highland Park High School in Texas, right?
Right.
One of the most prestigious high schools in the country.
Mhm.
Graduates lawyers, doctors, astronauts, senators, et cetera, et cetera. And I think 13 miles away you have a school that has like 71% graduation rate. Like you can't have that sort of disparity and then pretend that you have equal access to opportunity. We have the same thing in Illinois, right? Meta Valley, Naperville North,
Mateo
are
Valley,
super
Naperville North,
huge schools, beautiful schools, and then West Aurora sucks balls, right? They're playing football on like a mud field with uniforms from the 80s, and like you can't pretend that you have equal access to opportunity when you have areas that are neglected because all the white people moved out due to white flight, leaving behind, and then the businesses leave, and then the roads fall to pieces, and then drugs move in, and all this stuff. How do we fix the education system so that Hispanic communities, Latino communities, well, that's the same thing, and Black communities and Asian communities, and et cetera, that they all have equal access to the same opportunity, so that maybe in a generation or two, we actually have equality.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? And if so, what would be your plan?
I do. I think that one of the problems is that we train everyone. Teachers go through the bachelor's degree and then they get a master's degree. Sometimes they get a PhD, but usually they have to get at least the master's degree. And they try to train the students to follow in their footsteps. So we train every single student as if they're going to become a scholar, and we don't teach kids trades. And that's one of the big problems, is that then they reach high school, because that's the critical time, is high school, when all of a sudden there's a falling away, and certain people are going to be heading towards one track of experience, and then certain people are going to be heading towards a different track. I think that part of it is just a lot of it is you have to get in the weeds and get into the curriculum, and change the practices of what's you have to I'm sorry, I'm being distracted.
They're
by
fighting. I apologize for these two
yeah.
children fighting in the chat on screen while you're trying to fucking finish your point.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like Chris Wallace here. Boys, shut up. Gentlemen.
I generally think that education just got too institutionalized. We're too uptight about all the requirements that you need to do to start a school. I'm not going to jump on the school choice bandwagon, because that is wide open for a lot of corruption. And I have seen things that are not great with school choice. I'm not going to tell everyone to homeschool. That's another thing that I think conservatives tend to react to. And the answer is not to just send people to private schools, because the same problems that you see in public schools, you're seeing in private schools. So there's a lot of things that we've tried haven't worked. I think the most important thing is just we need to relax the institutions. You've got to just think of a school as a way, it might look like anything, but it has to be adaptable, and it has to be suitable for all different kinds of personalities. A lot of times kids that live, let's say you live in a crowded apartment with a lot of brothers and sisters, and you go to school and you're being asked to sit in a chair for 7 or 8 hours, that's going to feel a little bit different from a kid who goes home and he's an only child and he's got this huge house and he gets to run around all day long. And so then what ends up happening is a lot of Black and Hispanic children are always dealt with in terms of discipline. They're always under disciplinary standards rather than developmental standards. And I have a really good friend who's doing a lot of research in this, trying to look at why sometimes you'll have a white student and you'll have a Black student, and the same exact behavior, the white student will be sent to counseling, but the Black student will be sent to discipline.
You know what that is, Bobby. Come on, man.
Well, well, what do you think it is, Big Haas?
The disparities and dichotomies in punishment have been studied by MIT and other institutions, and they show that this is something that happens more often than not. Same infraction, same student academia history as far as discipline, education, etc., etc. Same school. One gets expelled or suspended or sent to detention. One gets counseling. This happens in every level of our socioeconomic systems in this country, and
the
that
courthouses too.
sentencing, arrests, policing, just even policing. Because I use this analogy all the time. If Tom and John both cheat on the English test at the same rate, but the teacher's only watching Tom, who's she gonna think cheats more? She's gonna think that he cheats more, but the other guy's cheating just as much, just not watching. It's the same thing in policing, the judicial system, as far as sentencing is concerned. And even in the workplace, in the corporate workplace. You know?
In schools, it's very pronounced because and it's the same thing between girls and boys. Girls are pathologized, boys are criminalized. You know what I mean? Girls are sent to counseling. So then you have black males, and they're almost entirely dealt with in terms of discipline. And then the opposite of that would be white females, who are almost always treated as a counseling issue.
And it goes back to the implicit biases and conditioning that we've had when you've seen an overrepresentation of a certain group as criminal, as violent, as incorrigible, as irredeemable. Then what is the almost instinctive response when you feel like you see it manifest right in front of you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just you have to restructure the school day so that these kids are not being governed by so many rules. I know it sounds like a crazy solution.
Oh, Montessori school?
Well, yeah, things like just we have to have other formats of that where kids can run around, kids can, you know what I mean? I just
of course.
where they can let off steam. I think the anti-bullying program, that's also really massively backfired. From what I've seen from a lot of middle schools and high schools, the anti-bullying programs have become a part of bullying. Because what ends up happening is there's a group of girls and they've decided that they hate Cindy. And so everything Cindy says, they all group together and they talk about it and they say, she's being so mean to us. And then they all gang up on her and then report her to the school for anti-bullying. And Cindy might not have even done anything that serious, and then there's all the pressure for the teachers to side with them. And then anti-bullying programs are really bad for Black and Hispanic male students. Because often the way that Black and Hispanics communicate is often interpreted as bullying or aggression. When it's not. You know what I mean?
Blacks and Hispanics like to snap on each other and stuff like that. So an outsider might see that and consider it being bullying when you're just playing the dozens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I know I'll just speak for Latinos.
I like how you said that, Latino.
Yeah, it came out.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I loved it. It was great.
Mechanics. We tend not to really value discretion the same way that white people do. I think white people really love being discreet. I don't know how I would put Blacks on that spectrum, but Latinos are definitely.
It depends on what you're talking about. It depends on what the situation is. Now, if you put my business in the street, that's an issue.
Yeah,
but I might be like, don't tell nobody I told you, but Mikey like his toes sucked.
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna come back around to me. I was like, he's got that look in his eye.
You've been quiet too long, Mikey. You've been quiet too long.
I already explained to you what happened
He's producing.
with the gummies. I already explained that my world is not right still.
He's still like it this way. He's producing. We like the producing.
But I was disappointed. Here's the one where I can jump in and I can join you guys in criticizing Trump. I was disappointed in Trump's response to all the problems in education, because his idea was just to form a commission to say that we've got to teach more patriotism in schools. And I understand what he's responding to. A lot of the curriculum and the content is like psychologically unhealthy practically for the students. A lot of the stuff that they're teaching.
Like what, for example?
Give me an example of that.
Well, like I think we don't want to get into it because it's probably going to start a.
Then we definitely want to get into it.
Wait, okay, all right. I think a lot of the programming that is dealing with trying to teach people how to behave, how to be a good citizen, how to cope with life. It's delving into very sensitive psychological things, and then like the sexual content is being introduced much too early. And a lot of
that.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is unhealthy. I mean, I have to watch over my daughter's school like a hawk, to because I'm very conscious of that. But I think that what has to happen is some president has to set up a commission to look at the labor system. And because conservatives don't like to talk about labor, this is where everything messes up. Tenure is a very bad system.
Yeah.
It's a very unfair labor practice because it divides instructors into people who have all of this privilege and who
Another
are
class system.
yeah, and then you have the temporary or adjunct instructors or substitute teachers or all these people who are working on a class by class contract, and that has a huge impact on education. So I think that's got to be looked at. But Trump right now, I think he's just responding to the most easy, superficial response, which is we need to teach kids to be more patriotic, and we have to.
On that plays to his base as well.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But what is I always ask though the question to that: what is patriot?
Patriotism.
Like, yeah, like to me, a patriot is not a term that you bestow upon yourself.
Right?
That would be a hero.
Yeah.
And I think patriots are the ones who ask the questions. Patriots are the ones who say that's not right. And we're not saying that we don't know what your definition is yet, and by all means give it.
Well, I don't think it's the school's place to teach people to love their country. Like that's not the role of a school. I think the most important thing is to give information. Yeah, and both the left and the right wing have their versions of this where they want to prefigure the conclusions that students are going to come to, or like shape the student into a certain kind of person, and that doesn't work. I can tell you that when I got fired from the Baptist seminary, one of the issues that went into my firing was we had produced a play about Elizabeth Keckley, who was this African-American woman. She was a freed slave. She was Mary Todd Lincoln's best friend. So she lived in the White House during the entire Civil War. And she had been sexually assaulted by a white slave master. And we worked really hard to do that scene in a way that was respectful. But here's the funny thing. The people in the seminary, they said, we're so interested in not being perceived as racist that we're not going to let you do this play. Eventually we were able to do it, but I had to do it off campus and I couldn't really get any support from it. But their answer to the fear of being considered racist was to eliminate the content. And that is the absolute worst outcome. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's the problem with political correctness, is if we're going to be so sensitive, then it's like, how are you going to tell the history of Black people in America if you're going to be super sensitive?
But that's the thing though. But that's the thing though, isn't it? Because the same group that doesn't want to be racist is also afraid of telling the truth. And I think that's the issue, is because the truth is racist, and the truth does hurt people's feelings, and it's nasty to look upon, and it's a stain on us. So if someone says, "Hey, remember when we got this stain on the flag?" and then everyone's just like, "You know what? We don't even need flags anymore. Like, we don't even have to talk about it." It's like it's the most dismissive way of, aside from calling somebody crazy, it's super dismissive. So that's why, so when people ask me what I am, I'm like, I'm a descendant of a slave. I used to be a slave, and then they were freed, and So that's where I come from. I'm from Nigeria background, but slave culture. That's where my people are from, and I wear it as a badge of honor because that's something that we have to make normalize. And I'm not speaking for the ADOS group because they're pretty much Trump lights. But I think until we all can get to a point where you're okay talking about nasty parts of history, and you don't just try to ignore it or just completely erase it altogether, which was my upbringing, is you only got slave ships, plantations, and then
Martin Luther King.
Through 3 pages later, it was Martin Luther King. But they didn't talk about Reconstruction. They don't talk about all the stuff that leads us into today. They leave all that out because it's uncomfortable.
And Reconstruction is a huge thing that is totally glossed over, or omitted completely in schools. And it's like they don't talk about the chain gangs. They don't talk about how the 13th Amendment
the convict lease
left
system
loopholes.
Like
the convict lease system. They don't talk about why we needed a 14th and 15th Amendment. You know what I mean, to the Constitution.
And I think real quick, one of the biggest things that doesn't get talked about, in addition to not talking about those things, is we don't talk about the intergenerational effects of these things as they trickle down through history.
Which is
You know what I mean?
which is why I stopped arguing racism
it
with
snowballs,
people.
it snowballs, it snowballs, it snowballs.
Yeah.
People think, like we're quick to talk about how the Holocaust has affected future generations and into now.
Right.
But we won't talk about how slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, civil rights movement, how systemic racism hasn't really gone anywhere. It's just evolved. And it's come from a place where it was right in your face, down, 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 and now it's down here. But
Yeah.
Imagine that in 20, let's say 50 years, you have we'll say a Democrat running for president who says that the effects of the Holocaust are no longer relevant on
you must be crazy
on Jews.
They're going to toast
Right.
homeboy alive.
That person would have, he'd have to be on standby.
He'd be in the bunker,
right? Because
he'd be in the bunker with Trump.
But when an African American talks about how the effects of not only slavery but also Reconstruction and Jim Crow and the Homestead Act and redlining and the Civil Rights Act and the drug war, the war on drugs, I should say, law and order with Nixon, and even into Reagan, et cetera, how those issues were covert. I don't think Reagan actually did it on purpose. I know Nixon did.
Yeah.
I think Reagan was sort of, but I think they treat it differently. But if you talk about those things in school, then a lot of people on the right will have a tendency to come and say, well, why are you teaching my kid this race apologetic bullshit? Which is the reason why the Proud Boys are there.
Why do you hate America?
Well, I think the conclusion I walked away with as I was working on this theater club at the seminary was that the most important thing is to have objective information. So, for instance, we wrote a play. I mean, we took some liberties with it, but I mean, Elizabeth Keckley was a woman whose story has been erased by history. She was Mary Todd Lincoln's best friend, even though they had a huge fight and they never talked to each other again after this big fight that they had. But Elizabeth Keckley was a woman she was a freed slave, and she was so good at being a seamstress that she owned her own business. And if it weren't for the fact that Mary Todd Lincoln kind of screwed her over on some business deals, she would have been a millionaire, but she ended up being penniless because she wanted to be faithful to Mary Todd Lincoln after the war, when everybody rejected Mary Todd Lincoln because Abraham Lincoln was dead and they didn't want to deal with her because she was crazy. So the facts of the life, that alone, as we were working on it, you had white Southern Baptists and black Southern Baptists, and they were able to work through all of those difficult issues and put it together. But what was so tragic was, I mean, I lost my job partly over this because people said that it was racially insensitive to try to tell the history. And
how do you spell Keckley?
Keckley. I will send you a copy.
I am so damn smart.
I will send you a copy. I will send you a copy of the play because I'm really proud of it. We did a really good job.
I would love to read that. I'm an amateur writer myself, so I'd love to read that.
Well, yeah, we'll stay in touch. But I think this is what worries me the most about our history is, and this I can say on both sides, I have issues with this. When we get so politically correct that ultimately, like, the people who are going to suffer are the minorities because we're going to get erased again. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden we become a problem. Wherever we are, our history is a problem. I had a huge, it was hard because someone said to me, well, why are you writing this thing about slavery when how does it affect you? And they didn't even realize that my ancestors were slaves in Puerto Rico, because slavery was practiced in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. So there's all these basic facts.
Just different boat stops.
Yeah. People, those facts about history that people just don't have. And I think once you have the information, then I think I saw that the students, they felt free to have conversations and, even go to places where, one of the white students at one point said, well, why don't we just have some of because we were having trouble getting enough black actors. They said, why don't we just have some of the.
Oh, shit.
No.
That is some bullshit.
No. We unfortunately we lost Bobby's feed right in the middle of
a very important part too. God damn, I hope he can get back in.
Well, what's your reflection, guys, on what he's if we don't get him back? We only have a few minutes left in the show anyway, but I have to say Bobby's been surprising.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of views we don't agree with him on, but there's a lot we do. But just on what he's been talking about now, what's your reaction to it? Well, Mikey, we'll go real quick first.
And I think that's something that speaks to the arts, because you kind of have to leave your political things at the door when you're an artist, because it's not really. That just cuts our heads off.
I didn't do that.
No, me neither. Okay, there we go. It's like when someone's an artistry type. So whether that's either music like me, I got a couple of people who paint and do art, or people who write. Like there's just a certain empathy that kind of comes along with the territory. Like you're an emoter, you're a feeler, so you more quickly empathize with another group's struggles and another group's pain and what they're trying to get accomplished. So I'm not surprised that as soon as he started telling me he was writing plays, I was like, we got him. This ain't gonna be but a minute. We got him.
Yeah, the pendulum swings both ways. I mean, the cancel culture is sometimes it's needed, but a lot of times it's not. Big Hoss.
Yeah. My thought is, and this speaks to the importance of getting to know people, because it could be, oh, he's a Trump supporter. He thinks like this, and this. I don't even need to talk to him. But this shows, like Shrek said, I'm an onion. People are onions. They may have
They stink?
No, they have layers.
Make you cry?
Cut an onion. Sometimes, man. Sometimes. But I'm trying to say,
I'm totally off script right now.
What I'm saying is there's layers to people. And I think that if people got together, they would see that there's more parts of their layers that intersect than don't. And I think that is one of the big downfalls. And sometimes I'm listening to a book called The Color of Law that's talking about how redlining and systematic segregation worked in real estate and things like that. And the author is talking about how it was intentional to keep races apart, to keep the ignorance of each other's races and ethnicities and cultures alive, so that you could keep the prejudice alive. Because if you got all these people living together, especially in middle and lower income levels, if they're all living together and getting to know each other, then the bullshit doesn't work.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? The bullshit doesn't work, because Dutch can say, man, I live 2 doors down from Haas, and Mikey lives right next door. And I hang out with them all the time, and I hang out with their people all the time, their families and stuff. This bullshit that they're pushing in the media isn't true. You know what I'm saying? But if you keep people apart, then they don't know about each other. They don't, I was fortunate. I was fortunate to be bused through a predominantly white school, I feel, because I got to know people. And I got to, I'm fortunate, I feel, to have gone to a PWI, a predominantly white institution, Eastern Illinois, shout out, for college. Because once again, I knew white people, but I knew Chicago white people.
Right.
But I got to learn about Central Illinois rural white people, because they were my roommates my freshman year. So I learned so much, and they learned so much. So I feel like we have to get to know each other. And that was why it was so great to talk to Bobby, because we could have said, okay, he's a Trump supporter, and that's it, and written him off. But he has some very, very salient thoughts about what to do with race and his work with race, and that's a prime example of not all Trump supporters are racist. Now, he might be race comfortable, but that's a subject for another day. But we have to get to know each other. We have to get to know each other and not let the bullshit keep us from having these types of conversations. We need to have more and more of these type of conversations on all types of platforms, and in person especially.
I agree. So with that being said, we'll wrap up the show. As usual, over 2 hours. But
want me to take you out?
No, you just did. I
Okay.
think we're
Okay.
yeah.
That's cool. That's
But
cool.
unless anyone had anything salient they want to talk or important they want to talk about, but I will say this: we are going to talk about the boys.
Yes.
We might
I finally
do it.
caught up. I finally caught up.
Great. So I think we might do we might do something maybe live when I'm in Chicago on the 14th. We're definitely going to do something live. Brian from the Herfcast is going to try to join us for a live show.
That would be cool.
So we're going to try to do something in Chicago somewhere. But outside of that, we are going to talk
ordering cables now.
But we are going to talk about the boys. We might do it on a separate show from the regular Thursday show. This is going to be the regular night now. Again, please subscribe on YouTube. We just got 2-3 more subscribers during the show. So that's awesome. We love you guys. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you for all the support. Get that VFU gear if you want to get any VFU gear. I will again put that up on the screen here real quick as we sign out. You can go to tpublic.com and find yourself some Voice from the Underground gear. You want to get a coffee mug, you want to get a t-shirt, you want to get anything like that. We are going to get a few of these items out to a couple of our listeners here. But again, you can also support the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/VFU podcast. Again, check out Big Heads Media. If you guys want to look at any other podcasts over there, you can go to bigheadsmedia.com, as well as don't forget, if you are using MyBookie to get that 20%, just use the promo code Big Heads, which right now is Big Haas because we see that Big Heads. So I guess they named it after you.
Hey,
So,
you know something? Don't forget to put Bobby's contact information.
Oh yes, and you know what? Actually, that's a really good. I'm glad that you mentioned that to me. I will put his contact info down there. I would have just gone on to Twitter right now and grabbed it and gave his Twitter handle, but Twitter has given me. Look at this. I'll even prove this is true here. Twitter gave me, just out of the blue, wants me to verify who I am. So
oh shit, they got you on the scope now, man. We on the scope.
Apparently I'm about to get cancel cultured by Twitter, but I will put Bobby's contact information in the show notes for the audio version of the podcast and for the video version. So thanks again, everybody. This has been Voice from the Underground, the podcast. We will see all of you motherfuckers. Hi, Mikey. We'll see all you motherfuckers next week, and probably for a special humidor segment later on this weekend or something. Haas, you got coming up over the next week.
Oh yeah,
do a special humidor.
I'll do it. I'll do one. I'll do one maybe Saturday or something.
Okay, so Saturday humidor, and then we'll also do a special show in the next week or two on the boys. Specifically, it'll be all the boys, no politics.
Pause.
In the middle, because we're going to put up more content for you guys here and start giving you guys more shit. Yes. So with that being said, go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Peace. 2 fingers.